Yo, what is going on, guys? Miguel here. So today we're coming at you with a video based on how I made as a solo agent here in Canada over $110,000 in GCI, about $113,000 to be exact, in gross commissions earned during my 12-month span of getting my license. This means back when I got my license in April 2022 to the end of my calendar year, which was April 2023. So yeah, I'm gonna outline the agenda for the video and just let you guys know essentially step by step. The first thing we're gonna start off is, what kind of lead sources I went after, what I did, and what my schedule kind of looked like in order to get towards that. And then we're gonna break down the deals from start to finish. I did a total of 10 deals. And then after that, I'm going to walk you guys through any improvements, what I feel like I should have done, and what I'm doing now to help improvise that, and the track I'm kind of leading towards right now. So, yeah, so basically this is being recorded near the end of July of 2023. So I got licensed back in April 2022 with, in Ontario. As you guys know, if you're from Canada or you're from Ontario, we don't really have those quick lead sources that people in the States do, like expired listings, lists of for sale by owners. We do have for sale by owners. We just don't have like 2 or 3 or whatever coming up every day on a dialer list, right? Like we have to keep an eye out for them. We might get like one a week kind of thing. And I notice here, a lot of the for sale by owners, it's like very scarce. You're gonna get a good lead kind of thing. So basically what I'm trying to say is that we have to kind of establish ways and find out ways in terms of prospecting, how we can get more immediate business and not really take a super slow burn our first little bit, right? Which is kind of the road I went, right? So to give you guys a perception, before I even got my license, I had a pretty good head on my shoulders, I came across people like Brian Casella and Jeff Glover and Brandon Mulrennan really early on. I'm talking I got my license in April 2022. It was like October 21 when I was starting to learn about these guys. And I also had a mentor who is still my mentor over at my brokerage, Meg. She basically sat me down. I was coming in as hey, I'm going to do this part-time kind of thing. And then she sat down no, you do need to do this full-time. And she actually got me reading books. So I started reading The Millionaire Real Estate Agent and the one thing. And ever since then, everything kind of shaped, right? Hey, I'm gonna just drop my job. I'm gonna take it full time, which is what I did. And if you are getting into the business, if you're watching this and you're looking to get into the business, I highly recommend you take that road. You just drop everything you do. Obviously, if you can't afford to do that, I honestly wouldn't even recommend. You could do it part-time if you really wanted to, but it's really not gonna make sense. And especially where the market's going, it's not gonna make sense until you fully dove head first going full-time. So take the leap that I did. It'll really help you in achieving results like this. So basically, what I did as well was I knew going into it, I'm a young guy, right? I needed help in terms of I'm gonna have to do business with people I don't know, right? So I knew right away when I was getting my license, I was gonna be slamming doors. I knew that was the first thing I was doing. If I had to call, I was gonna do calls too, do open houses, whatever was a possibility for me to prospect and meet people I didn't know and get business that way, right? So, to put in perception to things that helped me with this, I was scripting. Before I got my license, I was writing out scripts from videos I was watching of people door knocking and stuff, like Brian Casella, and I would write them out as scripts, and then I would chant them for 3 to 6 hours a day because I didn't have a job, right? So I was really drilling my scripts. I think that's really what helped me kind of launch towards my conversion rates and stuff and picking up a lot of leads. I just kind of knew what to say and I knew how to handle objections. Imagine being able to handle objections and knowing what to say to people confidently, when you have your license. Now, obviously, objection handlers and stuff are kind of something you learn as you start going into it, but you can only get so much, right? So, yeah, so I kind of started that road, and then April 2022 comes around, I got my license. So what did I do in order to actually get to some of these results, these 10 transactions that I got within only 12 months of being licensed, right? So basically what I did was I kept pillars, right? So if you're an agent, you should have your 4 pillars, right? At least 3, where you're prospecting, right? These are your pillars, not touch, you're keeping your blinders on. These are what's holding your business a shape, right? So my number one for me was door knocking, right? So I knew right away door knocking was going to be what's going to take me there. It's not immediate, right? But I mean, I'm going to meet people, and then the next year, which is what's happening now, is people are actually reaching out to me that I met and touching base with. They're a lot further down the funnel, right? So door knocking, open houses, and eventually it was cold calls, right? Because in Canada, again, if you're not from here, if I can explain it a little bit, in Canada, the best we can do is go on Mojo, load up a neighborhood, and just call random numbers, basically. So I was doing that, and those actually turned out to deals too. So I'll walk you guys through how that went. But basically the cold calls, I was still doing them, but the other thing I started implementing was it was for sale by owners as well, but for rent by owners. So I started doing for rent by owners further into the year. Like I'm talking like near the end, I actually started going into that source, which I'm very happy I decided to, because it's what's giving me a decent amount of business right now. So to sum it up, I was doing door knocking I would try to at least do it every day, right? Open houses, cold calls, and then for sale by owner, for rent by owner, right? For sale by owners, again, not a lot of them, but I actually have clients right now for sale by owners. I just closed on one that gave me 2 transactions, so that was pretty good. So let's kind of dive into the actual transactions, right, and the timelines of this. So I got my license in April 2022. And then I wrote out all my transactions here. I'll just go like to date, right? So I got my license April 2022, started right away doing open houses, okay? So the second open house I did, it was a pretty busy one. This is kind of still where the market was still seeing like 100 something over asking a lot, very commonly. It quickly shifted out of that though, right? So basically I started right when, in Canada at least, the market started like dropping in April, right? So I started right in that, and I'm very thankful I actually started in that. So basically my first deal came from the second open house I did. So this was an open house over at, it was in Lambeth. I'm from London, Ontario. So this was out in Lambeth, which is London. So I followed up with these people for a little bit, younger couple, and then they kind of ghosted me for a while. And then May came around, so it was about a month and a bit. It was about 40 days till I actually got like a solid response, because we were talking a little bit, and then I got ghosted for a while. And then I took the approach of sending them a listing that I thought would be interesting. I was like, hey, like, have you seen this one? I think this would be interesting for you guys. And she responded, she's like, yeah, you know what's funny? We actually wanted to go see that. Could you book us a showing? And it's pretty amazing. My coach actually helped me implement that, and it worked. So it was crazy. So I took him out for a showing, and ever since then we signed a buyer's rep and just went from there. The fifth home we actually seen, or I'm thinking about a different deal. The third group of showings we went on, we put an offer every single time, but the third group of showings we went on, the offer we put in, I went back home, wrote them up an offer, and it got accepted. So this actually took place in June. So it was like it was beginning of June. So it was basically exactly 2 months until I actually got a firm pending deal. We bought it firm. So yeah, not bad. Like I didn't have to wait like 6 months to a year. Some people it's even longer, like 14 months. But for me, I was lucky. I was fortunate to get a deal done in 2 months. So the property address was 783 Quebec Street. The purchase price was for $585. Again, I kind of like mentioned this just so you guys can search up on property records if you have access to that. So 783 Quebec Street, we purchased it for $585, and the commission was 2% on the buy side. So to let you guys know, if you're from the States, the average is 3, right? The average commission is like 6%, and then you charge 3. Here in Canada, it's 2%. So the average buyer commission is 2%. If you go to Toronto, it's like 2.5. They kind of up it a little bit, higher price point. But here the average is 2, so that's normal, right? So I got $11,700 on that deal for gross commissions, and yeah, that closed back in August. So yeah, I got $11,700 for that. Firm closed, no problems to closing. Everything was cool. So yeah, that was a pretty good first deal. Got my first paycheck in August, so that was not bad. Like I think it was like later August it came in, but yeah. The second deal was a lease. So I'll just let you guys know now. I did 2 leases. I'm gonna add them in because it all kind of added into my gross commissions. Lease. So I got these people as like a referral. They're a younger couple. They're around my age. A friend actually referred them to me. So basically, for what they were looking for, a young couple, and they were both bartenders and stuff, it was hard to find them something. So I didn't spend a lot of time with them, right? It was only like a couple days, but I found them something. And again, any paycheck at the beginning was good because you're kind of going off savings or whatever you had saved up, right? So, and getting a lease experience is really good because at least you know how that side of the transaction works. Me personally, I don't do buy side transactions anymore for a lease. I'll always just refer it off or just won't deal with it. It's just not, it's too much time consumption. As a new agent, you shouldn't be focusing on that. You'll get better further business if you just don't focus on that. But sticking to the plan. So this address was, I ended up finding, this guy was actually a for rent by owner that or he's an investor of some sort that I met door knock, because I didn't tap into for rent by owners yet because this was in September. I met this guy door knocking, he was an investor, and I reached out, I was like, hey, I seen you have this property. He had this property list on Kijiji, it was one of his rental properties. It was a nice home. He was renting it for $3,000, and yeah, rent's pretty high here, just saying. Renting a bungalow in the north end for $3,000, and I brought him in, and he actually knew the workers for these people that worked. He owned a bar, so he knew the owners of the places they worked, which really helped them get into the place. So because that was the main problem they're having, was that they were bartenders and they're really young. They had a lot of money, but that was the problem, right? So they got in for $3,000. I didn't represent him. I honestly could have came through with a full month's rent, to be honest, but at the end of it, I just walked away with $1,500, half month's rent. Not bad, right? That was pretty good for my first lease deal. He was pretty happy. We still stay in touch. So yeah, that was the second deal I did. The third deal I did was my first listing, actually. So I got my first listing over in it was September when I signed the exclusive, and it went live like mid-September. So it was like 2 weeks setting up, and then yeah, so the address was 1668 Cherrywood Trail. It was a really nice first listing. I got a lot of leads. I actually have someone I'm going to meet we actually signed exclusive at the time, but she has a place she needs to sell and buy because she put an offer on my property. But now I'm going back to see her because now it's time for her to actually do something. So yeah, I got some really good leads out of this. But basically, there's a bungalow that I listed for $650 in the north end. These homes never go up for sale, so it was a very good opportunity. How I met this guy was actually cold calling. I met his wife. I was talking to the wife, and all of a sudden the husband picked up one day, and she actually ended up passing away. So he actually called when I was talking to him. He's like, "Hey, like I think it might be time. It's funny you're calling now because I think it might be time. I was thinking about it. Why don't you come over?" And it was just on like my fourth follow-up call. I was touching base on a month-to-month basis. And I went in, got to know him a bit, came back, and then the second time I came back, we listed the home, right? So we listed for $650. Really good activity on the home. This was in September, and the market was really like slowed down in September. So the open houses were like zoos, a lot of showing requests, and we had a total of 3 offers on it. But then we ended up selling. They were all kind of like cheap offers, like just like a little bit under, like stupid conditions and stuff. And all of a sudden we had an offer come in $675, which is over asking. We were really happy about that, and we took it. So it was 25 over asking. I listed for 5% on that one. So I gave 2.5 to the buyer. Moving forward, I've done this a few times. Now moving forward in my experience, I wouldn't offer more commission to the buyer unless it was like even then, honestly, I wouldn't recommend raising your commission to the buy side, because at the end of the day, it's the buyer's decision. The agent should be able to do their job to get compensated anyways. Yeah, I wouldn't, as long as you're listed at the average commission that's acceptable, there's not really any point in raising the buyer's commission. So honestly, would have made more money in my times. I think there was like 3 or 4 times where I raised the commission on the buy side. I would have had more money in my pocket if I just didn't do that. So yeah, but anyways, 2.5 for the buyer, 2.5 for me. I ended up getting $16,875. I don't include the HST. We get HST on top of this. I just don't include that. I don't think that counts towards gross commission, so I just left it out. So yeah, that was deal number 3, my first listing. We sold that in 6 days on a firm offer, so that was really good. Closing was, I think, a month out as well, or 45 days, so that was pretty good. The 4th deal that I did came from a sign call referral. So basically, I went in the our Facebook group one day, and someone's like, "Hey, I have a couple sign calls. Does anyone want them?" And I seen it within the minute, and I just messaged. I was like, "Oh my god, I want a sign call." So yeah, I basically just picked it up. She gave them to me, the 2. I reached out to both of them, and then she also called me again to have another one. And all 3 of these actually turned into something. So I'm just gonna let you guys know now. So the sign call was for a 50-acre property out in Melbourne. It was on Gentleman Drive. I don't remember the address because all those properties have like 5-digit addresses. I'd have to go back in my records, but it was on it was on Gentleman Drive in Melbourne. It was a bungalow, like a 3-bed, with the acres sold it, right? So basically, I met these two buyers. I called them both. I set up showings for the both of them, and then so I'll focus on this one for now. I set up showings for the both of them. They both wanted to go back for another showing. They kind of like thought about it a bit, and then they both, when I touched base, they wanted to go back for a showing. When I brought them both back that same day, they both wanted to write an offer. I think they were both for, can't remember, they were both pretty low, and they both got rejected. So, but then it told because the seller was listed pretty high at the time, like too high. So then they relisted, and then I went back with the one buyer, and they actually purchased the home. So they relisted at 850, or 875. We bought it for 850. So yeah, they were actually offering 3% on that end, which is that's a high commission, and for a buyer, that's a heightened commission in Ontario, at least in London, Ontario for sure, because the average is 2. So I got a little bit more than normal on that. I had to pay out a referral fee. It was 25%, right, which makes sense. But the gross commission on that I earned was $25,500. It was pretty good. Then 25% of that went towards the person who referred it to me. But again, this all counts towards gross commission earnings, right? So 25,500 was the gross commission I got on that pay. Now to the next deal. This was actually someone else. This is where I was getting to with the, if you guys want to know about the other buyers that placed an offer, I'm still actually helping them look for something because what they're looking for is very tedious. They're looking for 50 acres for a lower price. So I just kind of got them on the back burner, but I touch base with them at least on a monthly basis. I just keep an eye of what's out there because it's very rare what comes up for what they want, but there'll be a transaction at some point. So, but yeah, she sent me another sign call, and this is for a different listing. It was for like a $500,000 price range. I brought her into the listing. I booked a showing. They had their approval and stuff basically ready to go, and then everything got finalized. And they're in the middle of doing their pre-approval at the time, but she worked with the bank, so she's like, yeah, everything's good. And then everything got finalized, and then we took about 2 weeks to look, and we ended up finding a home they really liked. So we put an offer. It's called 30. The address was 30 Bonaparte Lane. This was deal number 5, by the way. This 30 Bonaparte Lane, the address was, it was listed at 525, and we put a bully offer for 550. This is a pretty low price point they listed it at. So we put an offer in for 540, and got accepted. So it was accepted on conditional on the home inspection and financing. So we went in, we did the home inspection, and we found out that the roof had to be replaced, and it was a minimum of $9,000 to $10,000 to replace. Their financing came back in, and unfortunately it came too tight to where they had no other road to go in order to move forward because the roof was too expensive given their pre-approval. So they actually backed out of that. It's unfortunate. So basically that's the conditional period. It's kind of the similar I think in the States it just goes pending and then they can decide to back out because there's an issue. So unfortunately that did happen on my 5th deal. I had my first deal fall apart. At the end of the day, it would have paid me $10,800. I am going to include this because I count that as I already did the work and everything. It's just something that was out of my control, right? So I went ahead, I did the work. I would have gotten paid $10,800, but it fell apart, right? So it is what it is. But I did all the work leading up to it. I converted them off the sign call, and the roof and everything just was out of my control because they got pre-approved right on the price point, and the roof was too much for them, so they just backed out. So yeah, that was deal number 5. Deal number 6 was this was actually for rent by owner. So this was it. If you go to like late October, I signed exclusively with him like the end of October, like Halloween time frame. I listed this home in November, so it was a little bit of a gap from September to November where I had some more activity. So this address was 183 Emerson Ave. This was from a for rent by owner. So I started tapping into for rent by owners around here. And I didn't think it was going to turn into anything. The story behind this was I met him. We signed exclusively, and he had someone that was coming in to potentially rent the home, place a deposit. I said, hey, let's just sign it, and then if anything comes up, just give me a call, I'll rip it up, right? So we signed exclusively. He called me to cancel it because he decided to go through. And then 2 days later, he calls me back. He's like, hey, man, I don't think I can do this. I don't want to rent it. He's also a sketchy guy. can we, like, let's just put it up on the market. Can you help me out getting out of this? So I got him out of the lease, free and clean, and we listed the home by next week. 6 days on the market, we sold for $485. So I was listed for 5%. Again, I offered 2.5% to the buyers. Wouldn't recommend doing that moving forward. This is all stuff I'm going to learn going ahead. And he had a very tight bottom line for what he needed to move forward with, just because he put a lot of money into renos, and for him to capitalize into his next movement, his bottom line was basically 500. So I actually went down a little bit. So again, moving forward, this mistake I wouldn't have done. I went down half a point. He was happy with what he walked away with. At the end of the day, I wouldn't ever consider discounting a commission. Again, I was too tied to the deal. Now that I have more stuff coming in, I wouldn't do that ever again. I shouldn't have done that in the first place, right? But I should have went back at the buyer and said, hey, look, let's just take 2.5 to 2. But yeah, so anyways, I got paid $9,700 for that. Wasn't too bad at all, right? It should have been a little bit more, but that's okay. We're still for $485. It was gone in 6 days. Lifeline client. He was super happy with my results and stuff. So yeah, moving forward, would not recommend doing that. Again, offering more to the buyer, and also do not discount your own commission ever, unless it's like a small increment and it's like last resort to get the deal done, right? So, and you feel like the home's not going to sell otherwise, right? It's like very last resort. But yeah, moving forward, I would never do that again, and I learned from that. So, is what it is. So that was deal number 6. Deal number 7 was an expired listing. So basically, I got brought onto this listing. A buddy from my office that started around the same time as me. This was his first listing. So I actually came into the open house one day trying to visit him, because what he was doing was he was hosting an open house while a Toronto agent had it listed. So he was trying to like do the open houses until it expired. So I walked in to visit him, but he wasn't there yet. The seller was there, and I met the seller, and he really liked me and everything. We clicked it off really well. And then Mark, which was the agent at the time, he came in doing the open houses. He came in and see me. And I was like, hey, man, I was just looking to see you're here. He's like, oh, cool. And then, because I was actually driving to the air to door knock, and I seen his sign up. So funny that happened, because fast forward almost a month later, he emailed me and wanted me to join in on the listing. So he was completely cool with me coming in, the agent. It was his first listing, and I really helped him pull it to get the deal done. That was a hard listing. So basically, this was an expired listing that just kind of like I randomly got brought into. We signed for 5%, but since there's 2 of us, it was 1.5 on each side. We ended up double ending this about 45 days in. The seller was super tough. I'm going to be honest. He had a very, like, if I could explain an analytical, this guy was the definition of an analytical. Like when we first went in, he had net sheets build up from like 3 pages of opportunities, outcomes from a net result on Microsoft Word. It was crazy. So that kind of tells you a little bit about the situation. So we ended up double ending it. So we got to keep all the commission we had. I got paid 1.5. So that was $12,225. Again, that was kind of like coincidental how I got that. I basically just walked in, built good rapport with the owner, not even like purposefully. And he emailed me the day it expired. It was like, can you come over and list this pretty much ASAP? So that was pretty good. Yeah, I got paid $12,225 on that, 1.5 from 815. So we sold for 815. It was pretty good. That was actually a pretty good price for the area for sure. A lot of people were surprised we actually sold for that, because everyone thought like 785, maybe 800 was the max. So yeah, we did pretty good on that listing for sure. So that was deal number 7. Deal number 8 was another listing. This is another listing of mine. This was unit 44475 Sandringham Crescent. This was a townhouse. This was a for rent by owner. Now I'll let you guys know how I got this listing. I was calling for rent by owners like right at the beginning of the new year. It was like the first day back from the new year. I was calling, one of the first numbers I hit. I texted her, and I tried calling her, and then I texted her, and then she's like, hey, it's funny you reached out. That's actually, I'd much rather sell this than rent it. So if you can show me the market's good, I'll sell it. So we set up an appointment for Saturday. I went there Saturday. Super nice lady. She was just a single. The story behind it was she was just a single lady living with her 2 dogs in a townhome where she had too much space, and she needed a little bit of financial help and wanted to rent out some of the rooms. So she was trying to rent out some of the rooms to essentially downsize. So basically I came in, showed her how good the market was. I guess the last agent she had was telling her the market didn't do a proper market analysis and tried to list her home way too low. So she never listed the home back in the fall. And then now it's January. This is January, by the way, when this happened. It's January, and I go in, and then telling her market stats, everything, and I show her comps. Told her we could list for 400. She's like, awesome. Like, what's the net on that? And I actually charged 6% on this because I was offering staging services. I charged 6% on it, and yeah, she was more than happy with what she was walking away with. Signed the papers. We went on the market. 6 days on the market after the open house, we had an offer come in, and I actually took a little bit to negotiate it. It was 25K under, but I got it up to 400 full ask. And yeah, so I was offering 2.5 to the buyer. Again, wouldn't do this moving forward. Offering 2.5 to the buyer, and I got 3.5% on that. So I got, for a 400K listing, I got paid $14,000 for that. So yeah, that was pretty good. It's pretty funny. That's why you should always call friend by owners. You never know people's situations. She was literally trying to downsize. So she hasn't bought with me yet. She's not sure what she wants to do yet, but if she does buy, she's gonna be doing something with me. So yeah, that was pretty good, right? 6 days, got paid. It was a pretty shaky closing, if I'm gonna be honest. There's a lot of stuff going up to that, but we got the closing done, and then got paid $14,000 for a 400K listing. Felt pretty good, right? So yeah, moving on to the next deal, which is deal number 9. This was the second lease I did. So this was for an investor client of mine. I was helping his tenant move into another place. This was 1663 Shelton Court over in Summerside. Basically, I'm not going to explain this too much. It was a lease. Kind of looked a little bit for him for a couple nights, and then yeah, found a good place for him in Summerside, which is right where he wants to be. Found a really nice 2020 built home, got him $2,800, so I got paid $1,400 for that. So yeah, not too bad at all. That was it was on market, expired, but then we just did a deal off market. So yeah, got paid $1,400 for that. So the last deal, which is deal number 10, this was this was referred to me. So this was a referral from I had a listing appointment, and then I got a call from an agent right after, referring some clients from Kitchener. So she heard about me because I was from Keller Williams. I was Portuguese. Like, funny how that works, because these are Portuguese clients. So they're Brazilian actually, but she referred me because they're Portuguese. It's basically Portuguese if you're not familiar. Super nice couple. Yeah, I met them. They're looking for an investment property. We looked for a while. Like, again, we got along really well. We actually only had 2 groups of showings. The one I recommended them to offer on got scooped up. They went with another one. So we offered on that one. It was listed at I think it was 510. Yeah, it was 509, 510. We put an offer in for 478, and then they countered us at I believe 490, and then I countered back at 480, and we got accepted. It was conditional on the status certificate and just financing. So their financing was good. The status certificate came in, and they had a spec assessment, which was like really bad. Yeah, the spec assessment was like a big no-go. So they looked at that, and they actually decided to back out. So yeah, unfortunately I had to back out of that deal. I was getting paid 2% on my end, 480 for 2%. So that would have been $9,700 or $9,600, sorry. So it was $9,600 I would have gotten paid. Again, I count this towards gross commissions earned because, you know, I did all the work leading up to it, and then the status certificate, similar like the financing and the home inspection, it's out of my control, right? I can't do anything at that point. So yeah, I'm still working with them to help find a place. The people that I did the financing, I actually don't work with them. They ended up being pretty crazy, if I'm going to put it that way. So I decided to fire them. They're working with someone else right now, actually. So yeah, but these people, the Brazilian couple, I'm still working with. So they are going to be a transaction sometime this year when I find them something. And yeah, so that was going to be a $9,600 pay. Again, the spec assessment, can't do anything with that. So yeah, so to sum it up, I did 10 transactions. Out of the 10, 2 of them had no control over, right? So that was about 20, just under $21,000, I believe, in commissions that would have been closed that I would have earned. But yeah, it fell out. So if you're counting, so to sum it all up, if you're counting everything that actually closed, I ended up closing on 90, it was just under 94, like 90, if you want to sum it up, it's like $93,000 in gross commissions I made. Now, if the other 2 close, which again, I'm going to count that towards gross commissions earned just because I did all the work leading up and the rest out of my control, I actually ended up earning $113,300 in gross commissions through the 10 deals I did. So yeah, basically to sum it up, we had an open house. We had I'm not going to count the leases. We had an open house. We had cold call. So I didn't even say where my first listing came from. Oh yeah, I did. It was from a cold call, right? So cold call. The other one was from just walking into the open house when I met the seller. The other one was a for rent by owner. So we had two for rent by owners, definitely the top lead source. Then we also had sign call, right? So we had sign call, and then we had referral, right? So two for rent by owners out of that. Moving forward, it's actually this year's actually been door knocking's been the best source because you'll notice there's nothing for door knocking in this first year. That is because actually I did get a listing, but it never actually sold. So the summer was a little bit tough. But in February I did get a listing for 875. That was from door knocking. Moving into this year, I have a lot of source. I actually have my highest source of business right now is door knocking because they're all funneling now. I'm working with a lot of them. You can expect when you're door knocking, it's not going to funnel to anything to like 9 to like 12 months plus, right? Unless you find someone who's immediately there, right? And even then, you got to really drill in their motivation, make sure you're not like just the second agent going in, right? So, yeah. So to sum it all up, basically to kind of break it down, what I would do in terms of improving moving forward. So this is all stuff like now I have a coach. I've hired a coach. I'm with Glover U as well in their group coaching program. So I have a one-on-one coach and group coaching. This really has me being held accountable to the stuff I'm doing. But moving forward, what I would do and what I am currently doing to improve on and still am, right? This is what I would do if you're 12 months in, right? If you're make sure you're working 6 days a week every single week, right? It's okay to take like maybe your long weekends, whatever, right? Depends how bad you want it, right? But you got to make sure you take at least one day off, right? Make sure you take your Sundays off. I'm just going to say that, just take your Sundays. I know it's hard when someone like says like, hey, can I go see this property on Sunday? Just ask like, hey, is it okay if we do another day? If they can't, then maybe sacrifice it a bit. It is what it is. But moving forward, work 6 days a week, every single week. That's 100%. And then make sure your prospecting time, it's going to be hard because I think everyone makes this mistake, but you're going to start servicing when you start getting business. Try not to service so much, like just don't service until the afternoon, right? Make sure you block it off so you can acknowledge their stuff in the morning, right? So what I would have done in the first 12 months is any sort of client service stuff that came in the morning just before I start prospecting, acknowledge it, right? And then when you're done your prospecting, acknowledge it again, then get back to it after your lunch, right? Make sure it's all about like blocking your schedule, right? And just making sure you're really dedicated and focused on that time. Because if you're door knocking 3 hours a day, it's all going to generate. I would have done more business if I just really kept focused on that. I'm not saying I didn't do it. I did do door knocking a lot. There's days where I'd be out for like 7 hours sometimes door knocking, right? Go for lunch. So if I had nothing, I'd still do it. But it's when the client service comes in and you're not used to it, you start kind of like taking phone calls and stuff, right? And then also, if you're not seeing a lot of business coming from it, you start to dwell away from it. Just keep your focus. All I would say is just keep your focus on your prospecting efforts, and everything's going to fall in place, right? Now, it depends on what kind of prospecting route you take, but I would 100% advise if you're doing door knocking, stick to 3 hours at least every single day in the morning and stick to one area, right? You can do cold doors. What I was doing was I was just going door to door, like circle prospecting, right, in the form of door knocking. What I do now is I do like I do a hybrid farm, right? So I set up 2,000 doors so I can meet them every single I can circle back to them once a month. That way I can like get more people in my database and take control over that neighborhood, right? It's a lot more effective. So I would have done that. Moving forward, I would have stuck to a single individual neighborhood, or at least enough so I can circle back once a month so I can see them, right? So, and as opposed to just doing random doors. So that's what I would have done back in the days. Outside of that, I mean, I did do good efforts on just keeping consistent. Again, it's the first 12 months. Some people don't see a deal in their first 12 months. It's just, all you got to do, honestly, is just do your open houses, get in front of people, know what to say. That's about it. That's all I got to say. Yeah, so I hope you guys like that video. I mean, I know I kind of like blabbered on a lot on that, but that's just kind of the person who I am. None of this is scripted. I just go off the top of the dome, right? So yeah, I hope you guys like that. Again, this is just a video on how I made over 100K in GCI in my first 12 months being licensed. Again, something I'm definitely proud of that I did. And currently, if you want to know where I am right now, it's only July. I already capped in my first quarter, so it's definitely looking good. So the next 8 months, I'm gonna have everything just in terms of everything 100%, right? So everything closed, it'll be like closed, like I'll be capped like before the end of August, like it's going to be Monday when I'm actually officially capped. But for 8 months, I'm just going to have everything 100%. It took, just to give you a perceived example for closings, it was right on the 31st of March where I actually capped for my calendar year. So yeah, definitely the results definitely paid off. I'm expected to do about 500K in GCI this year. I'm gonna give another update at the end of the year, and I'm talking like the end of the year, like I'm talking like January, right? So that's my goal is 500K, and I'm definitely on track to do that. So yeah, guys, I hope you guys like that. The next video will be, I'm going to start doing videos every single Sunday. Well, Monday morning they get uploaded. But yeah, I hope you guys like that. I've been meaning to do this video for a while. If you guys have any questions, shoot them in the comments below. And we'll see you in the next video. Peace.